Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of Incantation, a horror movie review podcast where we discuss both classic and current horror movies as well as everything in between. So we're four friends from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia with a shared love for everything that is horror. My name is Joe and with me today is Caleb.
Hello.
Lynn.
Hi.
And Josh.
No.
Oh gosh.
No.
That scared me.
Where did that come?
Okay. I kind of lost my train of thought.
All from a click. That's how effective it is.
So, as promised last week, we are going to be talking about Hereditary. Very exciting episode for most of us. Hereditary is a 2018 American horror film. It's written and directed by debut director Mr. Ari Aster, and it stars Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, Shapiro and Gabriel Byrne as a family that is haunted by a mysterious presence after the death of their secretive grandmother. So that is lifted directly from Wikipedia, but maybe I'll start by giving an overview of the movie, non-spoiler. So this movie, the first time I watched it, scared the heck out of me. I kind of pride myself with horror movies because I watch a lot from the scariest ones to the non-scary ones to the funny ones. But this movie is something else, man. I remember the first time I watched it, coming out of the cinema, I was just stunned from what I just witnessed. There were so many layers to the movie. There were so many different concepts, or not concepts, ideas that's being presented, especially the occultic part of things. There were a lot of foreshadowing the second time I watched it. When you see things coming, it's totally different from the first time I watched it. I don't know about you guys, but even when you see the things coming, it's horrifying. And one of the most strong points of this movie, I would say, would be the family dynamic, the dynamic between the mother and her two kids. I would say, right? So really made the movie what it is. It is something that is totally relatable to everyone, right? Everyone has not everyone has siblings, but they have parents, and parents would have children. They could totally relate to this movie in a way that amplifies the horror of it. So Ari Aster, man, I would say that he's a total genius. I would say. For directing this, there is a scene in this movie which is utterly shocking. When the first time you see it, you wouldn't know what hit you. That scene punches so hard.
Trying to make a pun.
No?
Yeah.
Unintentional.
Spoiler
that character didn't see what hit them as well.
Oh, there were a few people that didn't see that coming, right?
All the spoiler puns.
But yeah, it's. I mean, this movie is freaking awesome. I would say that's all I have to say as a horror movie fan, and I would definitely recommend this movie to any. If you're like a first time horror movie or like you're a beginner, I wouldn't recommend this one.
Watch it anyway.
But it is apart from a really good horror movie, it is a really good movie by itself. So yeah. Caleb, maybe you can enlighten us with your thoughts.
There's not much to say about it. It's just awesome. This movie is it's just really good. It's just everything that Joe said. The acting, the directing, everything. Now, even if I try to nitpick it, I can't find anything to talk bad about. Yeah. It's pretty scary. I remember I had to go home and watch some funny YouTube videos the first time I watched it. It was that scary. The second time, I watched it, which is yesterday. I had to watch YouTube videos too. I have to check.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Did you check behind your doors and
Yeah.
corners,
yes, to check my ceiling. Yeah.
especially your ceilings, right?
Spoilers. Just spoiling. Right. Yeah. There's not much to say about it, but if you haven't watched it, what are you doing? Right? It came out recently too, and there's not much. There's not a lot of good horror movies that came out recently.
Mhm.
Right? And when this came out, it was like a surprise.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I would totally recommend it.
It's my favorite horror movie of all time. Not that I watched a lot, but yeah, it is really good. Like non-exaggeration. Like Caleb and Joe has mentioned about all the good aspects, and there are only good things to say about this movie. At least for me and Joe and Caleb. I don't know about Josh, but yeah, the first time watching it, I couldn't sleep for 2 nights. Second time watching it,
No exaggeration.
no exaggeration. I really couldn't sleep for 2 nights, and I had to check up. I was looking at my ceiling, looking at my walls, if there's anything there. Thank God there's nothing. Second time I watched it, I think maybe not 2 nights lah, maybe 1 night, and it's a Sunday night. So yeah, but anyway, it's yeah, I think it has all the elements and aspects of a good horror movie in terms of cinematography, the family dynamic. It was really we can really feel it because, like what Joe said, it's real. Anyone with they're not a broken family anyway, but like anyone with a family would actually experience that kind of oppression at a point of their life, right? So that's really real. The occultic what do you call it? The occultic aspect of it was yeah, it affected me the first time. The first time I watched it, like I kept thinking about it. So because it was bothering me, I didn't even bother to Google it. But the second time watching it, I think I would. It didn't really scare me because I kind of know what to expect. But the whole family dynamic, it's quite disturbing. Like the grandmother. Okay, this is a non-spoiler part, but yeah, that is the aspect that kind of like, it's not scary lah, but it's disturbing. So definitely recommend it. I would watch it the third time and the fourth time and the fifth time.
Nice. Right,
We're
Josh?
doing it again next week.
Again and again and again.
Yeah.
Until we can pick
Yeah,
out
we're gonna change the
everything.
name of this. Change the name of the podcast to become
Hereditary.
Hereditary over and over.
Watch it until it's not good. All right, Josh, give us your thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, the first time I watched this film in 2018, it is. I think it's safe to say that for me, it is probably the most intense experience I have had in a cinema. I remember coming out of the cinema hall just like drenched in sweat because of how tense the whole film felt. But watching it a second time around, I think there are a couple of things that are really very interesting for me. I'm really glad to hear that all three of you have had really positive experiences watching it the second time around. But I guess like for myself, even when I watched it the first time, right, while I admired and liked a lot of the film's aspects, there were a couple of things that didn't really sit right with me, which I'll go more in spoiler talk. But I think at this point I'll just say that the first time around the ending didn't really work for me, and it's still the same this time around. We are talking about this film because of the occultic elements, because this is the series where we're talking about occult films, and for me, like, I found the occult part of the films the weakest part of it. I personally gravitated more towards the very strong family dynamics and especially between Annie and her kids. But then it becomes a question of so I said there were two things, right, that were on my mind. One is like our interpretation versus the director's interpretation, right? And when we're talking about a film, it is useful to, well, in this particular setting now, we're talking about how we feel about it. But when we critique a film, I just don't know whether, how much value, how I feel about it, or how I feel the film should have gone, how much value that is to this conversation, right? Because if you ask me, like, there are certain elements that I would have stressed more on and certain elements that I would have reduced. But then I don't know whether that is actually critiquing the film or just me, coming out of my own, fan, fan service or fan, your own kind of, your like Hereditary according to Josh, right? And I think that also goes into the first viewing, second viewing thing, because with that already in mind, with me wanting so much for this film to be one particular thing, and then pretty much seeing that it's not by the end of the film, how that affects me watching it a second time around, right? Mm-hmm. And I will have to say that, second time around, going to it, and then picking up on stuff that confirms that ending, actually left me a little bit disappointed. It is something that it is something that is also leveled against The Witch, right? Because what happens at the end of The Witch also, I shouldn't go to spoilers, but the ending of The Witch doesn't work for a lot of people, mm-hmm. or some people, right? Because it gives a definite ending to what has happened. This film as well provides a definite ending to the Graham families, what they have gone throughout this film. And I'm not sure whether that sits well with me. Right? So, would I recommend it for horror film fans? Absolutely. Like, if you have never seen Hereditary before, I don't know what you're doing, I don't know what you're waiting for, please go and see it. If you have already seen it the first time and you liked it, based on what Joe, Caleb, and Lynn are saying, go for it again. Like, watch it again. Like, I think there are a lot of Easter eggs in the film that a second viewing would help to really flesh out more. But if, like me, you felt it that the first time when watching it, there were some things that didn't sit well with you, just be warned that watching it a second time might compound it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we are confirming that we're kicking Josh away from this podcast. Okay, so this will be our non-spoilery part. So stay tuned when we get back, and we'll discuss a little bit more about Hereditary in detail in our spoiler section.
Come on, Peter. Let's just do it.
It's heartening to see so many strange new faces here today. I know my mom would be very touched and probably a little suspicious.
Who's gonna take care of me?
You don't think I'm gonna take care of you?
But when you die...
She wasn't altogether there. At the end.
Mom?
I don't like this. Dad, I don't like this.
What's happening? Peter! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother! Please stop! Mom, what's happening? Make it stop! Make it stop!
I just don't want to put any more stress on my family.
Okay, welcome back, guys. We are talking about Hereditary this week, and with us still is Josh and Lynn and Caleb.
They didn't kick me out, guys.
So, all right. I just want to start off with the family dynamic, since it's actually even Josh can agree it's one of the strongest point of the film, right? How the even at the passing of the grandma, what was the grandma's name?
Ellen.
Was it Anne? Anne? Oh no, not Anne.
Ellen, right? Was it? Starts with an E, I remember.
Yeah.
No one remembers the grandma's name.
She's just
Ellen. Ellen. Yeah, it's Ellen. Right. So so even with the death of Ellen, you can sort of like feel her sort of like a grasp on this family and how she actually affected everyone in the family, especially Toni Collette's character Annie. It totally wrecked her life, right? At first she was just missing, and she came back, and then she took over her life completely, even to a point where after Charlie was born, she just like what Annie said in the support group, right? She just inserted her hooks into the family. She just took over, and then she even named Charlie. So her name was supposed to be Charles. I saw in one of the when Toni Collette went through her things, the kid's name Charlie was actually Charles, and then they just called her Charlie. So they named he wanted her to be so much to be a boy, and then upon second viewing I realized that she actually breastfed Charlie, and that is one of the most disturbing crap I have ever seen or heard, right? So that grandma totally wrecked the family, even in her death, right? You can see in her death.
I'm just going to jump in and say that I think what's very interesting about Ellen's death, right, and how it frames the film, is that we get to see the family's response to Ellen's death, and then the family's response to Charlie's death, and the grief that is shown by the characters, and you see how Annie reacts to Ellen's death, and because there's clear animosity between Annie and Ellen, and as you pointed out in that monologue where she has in the support group, you can understand then, that's why Annie is reacting the way that she is. And even the one that is closest to Ellen, it actually gives us clues as to what's going on in the film, because how Charlie reacts to Ellen's passing, she's the closest one to Ellen, and yet her reaction is really, it's not normal. Let's put it that way, right? It's you don't see grief being expressed in the normal way. She says that she misses grandma and all that, but there's no crying, there's no what you would see as a normal expressions of grief. And that really clues us in that, hey, there might be something a little bit off with Charlie, right? And that I find it is, I mean, especially watching it the second time was something that I really appreciated, being able to see, the rest of the family, Ellen passes, they don't really seem to be that affected, and the one that should be most affected doesn't seem to be, displaying grief in a normal process. And then when you see Charlie's passing, then it's just the whole film just explodes, right? It's like everything that was under the surface or anything that they might have been repressing up until that point just explodes. And I really, really appreciated that. I think one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys as well, when you were watching it the first time, right? Charlie's death, I think, really just came totally out of nowhere, right? I don't think any one of us would say, I knew that she was going to die. Especially when if you watch the trailers and the look at the promotional things and all that, like she is placed front and center. I'm just wondering how, when knowing that she's already going to die, whether that changed how it affected you this time around, how you saw it.
I think for me, it didn't kind of change my perception. I mean, like, I saw it coming, so to me, Charlie was probably just a filler. Like she's not she's not really an important character until you see the clues along the way, because like the whole action of like cutting the head of the bird, and then she was building that whatever toy with legs and without a head, right? So like I knew her purpose there, but yeah, I didn't really see a character as something. I mean, like, it didn't really change my perception from the first time I've watched it. But yeah, she did definitely play an important role in putting the pieces together towards the end of the movie. I don't know if that makes sense.
So are you saying like the impact of it is are you saying the impact of it is less now that you knew that she was going to die? So watching the second time, like the impact of her death wasn't as great?
I would say so.
Oh, okay.
It's more or less the same for me, right? Because Charlie, the first time I saw her, she's like this weird kid. I just thought that she's weird that way. But if you ask me if the impact is less or not, I think it's almost the same. It's very intense. But the first time when I saw her head get smacked off by the one pole in the middle of nowhere, we didn't see it coming. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, the first time we saw it, I didn't know she was dead.
We didn't know if she was dead.
Yeah.
But when we know that it's coming, it's still very disturbing and intense, especially the scene that comes after, where the brother had to go home and not sleep and then the mother finds the body, and then they just cut to her head in the middle of the street. It's I had the same feeling as I saw it the first time. So yeah,
I think it's a little bit more intense for me, because you know it's coming, and then you start seeing the signs that the director actually starts to show you. Even before, when they were driving past the pole the first time going to the party, the camera was tracking the car, and then it stopped right on the pole.
Yeah,
and then they show you that symbol, right? So I missed that the first time. I mean, I saw the scene, but I didn't know what was the point of that stop, the camera stopping on that thing. So, and then the part in the party, the girl was chopping up all the nuts and all that. So, I don't know. I felt the tension rising, and then it's like, okay, she's gonna so get it, and
it was different.
It was totally different when it happened.
We saw every detail the second time we watched it.
Right, and yeah, when it happened, it was more, holy crap!
We saw it, we see it coming the second time, but when the first time we like, what just happened?
Yeah, what just happened? And then we saw the head. Right, it's like, yeah, oh my god, she died.
It's a different kind of intense.
Yeah,
but it's for me, like, there is a follow-up question to that, right? As in, you're saying that, that you can see all these clues that have been put down, and then you can see how it plays out, right? And I was just wondering whether you any of you felt this as well. Like, for me, one of the things that I will hold against the film, and this sounds like a really, really great thing to say, but it feels a bit too neat in how it's composed, as in everything that Ari Aster is highlighting, there is a resolution to it, or there's a conclusion. Right. Or you see that dog here, that dog, you're going to see the dog die at the end, right? So if you see this symbol here, you're going to see what it means at the end of it. Right. Everything has a particular meaning, and every one of them is resolved neatly, as in there's it's a full stop, right? You find out, you realize, okay, I know what these things are. And like, for myself, I think the second time watching it, it struck me as that I can appreciate the craft that goes to it, because it shows that a lot of thought went into making the film. But it also felt to me a little bit like
too perfect.
These are, okay. I don't know. But like these are signs of like a first-time director where you feel like I need to dot every single I need to cross every single T. I need to make sure that everything fits in everywhere.
Right.
And not be, and maybe I don't want to say not confident enough, but being like letting the audience have at least some role in interpreting the film, right? Because some directors leave things pretty ambiguous and be like, you figure it out yourself. And this one, there doesn't seem to be, at least second time around, doesn't seem to be that much ambiguity.
Right.
So I'm just wondering whether like you guys, is this an issue for you guys as well, or you actually find it to be a positive instead of a negative?
I just thought it was the plan of the cult, right? It took years of planning. The grandma planned this all for things to happen like this, right? What we're seeing is their final plan, the plan to
Coming to fruition.
yeah, because in the meeting, the mother was talking about her brothers dying, killing themselves off because the grandma was trying to get their sons
Possessed.
right.
Yeah.
What I thought was that the grandma's plan for the brothers failed, so she planned this one that succeeded.
Yeah.
That's why the planning is so perfect. Right?
Yeah.
Everything happening as exactly what she wanted.
I feel the same way as well. I feel that it's just the cult. Is not so much the director that is driving whatever is happening, but I feel like it is the cult that is actually doing all this, and how the symbol is actually on the pole itself is evidence of that. Is evidence that the cult has been working behind the scenes, even the everything, right? So they probably did some kind of a ritualistic magic or whatever to cause the accident to happen. So I don't know. For me, is a positive. It just makes the cult more ominous.
Makes them smart.
It's smart.
Right? They're not just some bad guy that
just
wants to do
bad things. Right?
They actually have like a background story kind of to them that like very subtle, that we don't pick it up if we don't pay attention.
Yeah, it's very subtle. So like it like I disagree that to say that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. The cult basically is very obscure. Right, you don't know what the heck are these people. You don't know. I mean, you know their motivations is for wealth and knowledge, right? That's why they go to this demon, and that's all you know about them. And how they operate. Who are these people in this cult? You don't really know. And what is the ritual exactly? You don't know. And what are the rules that they don't that they perform all this ritual? You don't know, right? So there is still quite a bit of unanswered question. But what we're seeing is, the grandmother, Ellen, sacrificed her whole family for this end goal. Even herself, she was sacrificed, right, for the cult. So I feel like that just it feels like it's neatly in a bow, but I feel it's just the cult working very hard.
After a lot of failures.
After quite a bit of failures, like the grandmother's son, and then goes down to the daughter, which is Charlie, right? Then finally they're able to get
what they want.
Yeah, what they want in what's his name?
Peter.
Right?
Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah.
I feel like
Lynn, how do you feel about it?
I actually kind of agree with Joe and Caleb. I think it is meant to be neatly planned in that way. Actually, the first time watching it, I didn't get a lot of things as well until I watched it the second time. And yes, it's definitely, you can expect everything to be explained in a clear manner, but it's not, I mean, it didn't matter to me because I want to know, and I'm the kind of person who I'm okay with ambiguity, but like for things like this, I think it is indeed the plan of like the cult, like they just did it perfectly lah. So I think it's meant to be understood that way. So yeah.
Josh, you have a follow-up question?
But I guess where I'm coming from is really looking beyond I'm not looking at the film itself per se. I think taking a step back, it's just looking at all the plot points, right? And how you can see, it felt to me, watching it the second time, it's like, okay, we're introducing this here, so these things to be resolved. We're introducing this here, this needs to be resolved.
Right.
And so I'll give you an example. For example, the story where I think it's Annie who tells the story about how when she wakes up and then she found herself like drenched in paint thinner, and she lights out the match, right, and how it was going to kill all of them. And that one in itself should have been enough to propel this, or you understand why is it that the son and the mom have this friction between them already, because he feels that she's out to actively harm him. But then it feels like, okay, we introduced this plot point here, so we need to show that at the end, when we are destroying that book, Peter gets caught up in flames. You see that it completes that circle, you understand? And it feels like every single or almost every single plot point is introduced is then concluded. Every single plot point that they put in, like I mentioned, the dog, or you see that they have a dog around the house. At the end of it, it's not even left up to your imagination what happened to the dog. You can see clearly the dog is dead. The dog is dead, right? And it speaks to meticulous planning, right? And it's something that people love about the Nolan films, for example, like how you can see how he plans out everything in Inception and in that Memory Loss. It's ironic that I cannot remember the Memory Loss film.
Memory Loss film.
That Memory Loss film. Yeah, I don't remember.
But it is great that you guys found that actually helped the film. I guess like for me, it felt a little bit like, and because you needed to round up every single plot point that you introduced, or it felt almost every single plot point introduced, the second time I'm watching it, it feels like the film is a little bit too long. Like I felt I wish that it was actually a little bit shorter, a little bit more compact, so that we can get to that end a little bit faster. But I mean, again, that's just me.
All right. Maybe we could talk a little bit more about the performance of Toni Collette and some of the other actors as well. And I guess everyone would agree that Toni Collette is
MVP.
The MVP of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I saw it, was the Toni Collette's performance stood out the most to me. Yeah, but for the second time that I saw it, I actually felt more bad for the father. Because
the most useless character.
He can't help it, right? And yeah, the actor is pretty good at it too, showing helplessness.
You don't need much
Like,
talent to show that though.
He tried to hold this whole family together so hard. In the end, he gave up, but he's the one that dies.
It's not even his fault.
It's not even his fault, right? Right? Yeah.
Annie's the one who threw the book, and then he's the one that goes up in flames.
Yeah. I actually felt more bad for the father the second time watching it.
But I actually want to, on the point of the dad, right? I mean, you see, when you look at the film, the stand-up performances are definitely Toni Collette and Alex Wolff. Fantastic performances by both of them.
Yeah.
But I think, Gabriel Byrne really puts in a really subtle performance as the dad, which is something that I enjoyed more a second time around. That one scene where they are at the dinner table, right? And after Toni Collette leaves, and then he reaches up his hand to touch Peter's hands.
Yeah.
And then he withdraws, and then he takes off his glasses, and then he's like, and like that for me, in a film where Toni Collette and Alex Wolff get really big, are allowed to put in, really big performances or have really big scenes, I just found that note that Gabriel Byrne introduced right in that particular scene was just perfect. I love that 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 just instead of having to do something big, just something subtle to add to the
I guess
So
he's-
I'm going to defend Gabriel Byrne a little bit. It's not easy being helpless.
To portray helplessness.
Yeah, to portray helplessness.
His MVP for as a supporting actor. Like even in the scene where the mom was trying to do the seance,
Mhm.
like he's trying to do as much as he can to hold Peter together.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
You can tell, you can see the moment where he just okay, I'll just go through with this.
Yeah.
Right. Just for your sake.
He's so done. Yeah.
And then after that he's like, okay, you have to stop this. Right. But he goes back and forth, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think
Wouldn't
another
you seeing your wife going downhill mentally, and then your son getting haunted. What would you do? Anyway,
don't make him
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah, I wanted to say about the scene where he cried in the car after fetching Peter. I think that was really strong because we usually don't see men crying, right? And we have never really seen that in any other horror movies. Usually the father is the useless one, and in this case
It's useless good.
I think it's so real because movies always portray men shouldn't be weak and whatnot, and this movie I think his performance was really good in that scene. Like as a father he can't hold the family together. I mean, not really, but more of he's just done he doesn't know what else can he do. So yeah, I think that could be commended.
We're supposed to talk about Toni Collette.
We were supposed to talk about
divert.
but I mean, it's pretty obvious that she's really good.
Yeah.
I cannot believe she was not nominated for.
Yeah, she got
This is an
snubbed.
injustice. Those Academy members need to be cursed if this Hereditary.
Maybe they got scared watching halfway. They didn't finish the film.
But that's the thing, right? Horror films very rarely do we see, and the amazing thing is that actually if you go and I just found this out today, that she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for The Sixth Sense.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, hang on. The reaction is, I'm not saying Toni Collette was not good in The Sixth Sense, and I'm surprised that she got nominated for that one. Right? I'm just saying she was great in The Sixth Sense, and she was excellent here in Hereditary. I don't understand why she was not nominated.
We end up talking about the dad instead of the supporting actor.
But I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I just want to say when Peter lost consciousness in the school and then he got back, and then the first time after the dad was just immolated, and then Annie is possessed. When Peter wakes up for the first time and he goes through the house, when he was sitting on the bed, did you guys notice Annie in the background?
Please, man,
Sitting
please,
on the bed.
please, man. That is, if you're, okay. Up until that point, right, I was going to say, hey, you know what? One of my talking points going to be when we talk about this episode, how Ari Aster is really good at constructing a film and looking at people's emotions, but maybe he's not the best when it comes to scary scenes.
No.
Right? And then that scene hit, and I am like, oh my goodness. You're not aware. You didn't notice Annie in the corner.
In the bedroom, is it? I didn't.
Yeah, in the bedroom.
The first time where Peter woke up.
I didn't see her until Joe mentioned it to me.
I saw her the second time and it freaked me out. I didn't notice her in the first time I saw it.
She was so still.
Lynn, maybe
It's not the
watch
one-
it again after.
Watch it again.
Wait, it's not the one in the hall, right? Not after the father got
No,
killed, right?
No.
It's in
his
the room itself.
In his room.
Actually,
in
didn't
his
notice
room.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
In his room. It was,
Okay.
it was
Is,
really faint.
yeah.
Okay.
She was like right above him.
But you did notice that she was scrambling out of his room, right? That
That was kind of wacky to me.
do you notice that?
Do you remember when Peter woke up and then just before everything goes to shit, and Peter woke up. He sat on his bed for a while, and then the camera just sort of like pans to him. And then
it's
to the
giving me
door.
the creeps just talking about it.
Okay, let's not go into it.
And then you see Annie, like, she just, like, I don't know, floats and
She was
crawl,
like swimming.
crawl in
Oh
the
my
air
gosh.
out of his room.
You didn't see that? Oh my god.
I didn't. Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah. Just
Maybe
go
you need to
look at that
up the
scene.
brightness, up the brightness.
I think one sleepless
Rewatch.
night. I think one sleepless night is enough. I don't need another.
Man, I saw it yesterday and I was freaked out by it. I saw it when I saw it.
Yeah. I got goosebumps when Joe mentioned it. I didn't saw her in the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
And then Joe mentioned it, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, because you remember she was in the background when he was in the hallway.
Yeah, I saw her in the
When
hall.
he discovered the father's
Not
body.
in her bed.
My
Not
God.
in his bed.
Okay,
Yeah.
but Lin, apart from so this one is like, for me, that was the scariest part in the film, right? But like up until that point, do you have any like memorable scenes that you felt, ooh, that this is really very creepy?
Yeah, definitely that scene with the weird guy in the living room. After he noticed that his father got burned, then that weird guy.
Right.
Yeah. Actually I didn't notice that it was the same guy who was at the funeral. Yeah. The one smiling at
Yeah,
Charlie.
third viewing. I think this is all telling you need to watch it a third time.
We could probably watch it like once a year.
Watch party.
I don't know whether it's because I didn't notice anything, but like apart from that guy at the corner, I don't think anything was scary. But another thing that was quite memorable to me was the scene where Annie was grabbing what's his name, Peter's head unconsciously when she was sleepwalking. The things that she do when she was sleepwalking was just crazy lah. Like they're quite disturbing, and yeah, the ants coming out from his mouth and things like that. It's quite weird. And him banging his head on the table. Yeah, I mean his face was quite distorted, right, at time. I think the time he's already I'm not sure if anything already possessed him. But yeah, that was quite weird. I mean, if I was his classmate, I would freak out and I would change schools.
Straight up change school.
I think it was Paimon trying to possess Peter but failed. It did say in the movie at some point
He has to be weak, right?
yeah, his psyche has to be weak in order for Paimon to possess him. So he's trying to possess him but still cannot. So in the end ended up possessing the mother because the mother just saw her husband go up in flames.
Yeah, I think the spooky scenes would be, apart from that scene where that same guy who was in the funeral appeared in the house after the father was burned to death. I think the scenes where Annie was sleepwalking, whatever that she's seeing or she's doing were quite creepy as well. Like the part where she grabbed onto Peter's head, trying to pull his head off and stuff like that, and then the ants coming out from Peter's mouth, and then those were just like weird. And definitely all the headless scenes in the movie, those are just creepy. Like I didn't know what the relevance was. Like after Charlie's head was knocked off on that pole, that was so disturbing. And the fact that like Annie was painting that exact figurine, right? It's weird. Like what kind of mother does that? I think I kind of covered most of it. And of course the memorable head flossing scene. That's just crazy.
Oh my god.
That scene, oh my dear.
Head flossing scene.
Head flossing.
That's a new Fortnite dance.
And that way that sound continues even after he's jumped out the window.
Right.
Seems like a rotting happening in the background. It is just
That was
like I said,
details.
I was up to that point, I was thinking to myself, Ari Aster, maybe not so good with the scary bits. He saved all of them for the final 10 minutes of the.
Yeah, I mean, he just build and build and build.
For me, the most memorable scene was the headbanging scene, actually. When
Annie was banging on the
when Peter
attic.
went up into the attic, closed the door,
and
then you hear banging on the attic door. Then you don't know what's causing the banging until he cuts to Annie upside down headbanging on the ceiling.
And then you don't want it to stop.
Yeah. when you know that it's your possessed mom headbanging on the door, you don't want it to stop because if she stops, you don't know where she goes, right?
Yeah. The headbanging is sort of like indicative that she's still there behind the attic.
Right.
I think you both want it to stop and don't want it to stop at the same
At the same time.
Showing us headbanging.
It's terrifying that she's banging her head on the door, and it's terrifying that she stopped.
Right? So at that point, you just jump out your window.
Right? There's nothing left to do. You just jump out. I mean,
I guess I'll die.
What was most scary for me? What was most scary for me was definitely the scene where you don't even see it. The audio of the mom discovering the body. I mean, your head just fills in the details. Yeah, I don't know, but I have like a crazy imagination, and she even describes it later in the support group. But like I sort of like just imagine you walking into a car, and then she opened the door, and she got into the car.
She got into the car.
She closed the door. She opened the door. She got in, and she closed the door. And then the screaming started, and then she discovered there is a body. Just imagine that you walking into a car, and then you close the door, and then what is that smell? And then you just turn behind, and it's this headless body.
I read it, not imagine.
Right.
But I think like that's the genius of Ari Aster, right? Because he's able to paint this kind of scenes in your mind.
Yeah.
Using just sound. That is one example of it. And then he does it again with the garroting, the one at the end where you don't see any completing the
head flossing.
But the sound in this film is excellent. I mean, the use of sound, the use of the soundtrack is brilliant.
Even the soundtrack is it's kept to a minimal, but it's really effective. There is constantly a low humming that goes through the film. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's just this really low droning and humming that just makes it really uncomfortable. You know that there is this creeping thing behind the scenes and underneath the surface. There is something behind the door, or there is just something that is going on that you're not seeing. And it just creeps you out, and then it makes you really uncomfortable. And it totally goes with the tone of the movie where there's a cult that's operating behind the scenes, and you know, second time watching it, you know that they're there. They're just somewhere there, being all naked.
Not all the time.
Right. Even at the beginning when Charlie is walking in the field, barefooted, and then she just goes out to meet this, I don't know, lady. I don't know whether she's naked or what, but she's just there at the bonfire.
That was the grandma.
I thought that was the grandma's
spirit.
The grandma's dead, right?
I thought she's seeing
she's seeing the grandma because she is possessed by Paimon. And she
Right.
can see the grandma.
Right.
Yeah.
So the sound design is excellent, and the set design is amazing.
Before we go to set design, can I just point out one part of the sound design as well that I found really effective?
Yeah.
There's the part where Charlie has that so the attack, and then Peter has to bring her to the car, and you hear the soundtrack, but it's also punctuated very heavily by Charlie's breathing. You can hear her breathing very heavily at that point, and then they go into the car, the soundtrack builds and builds and builds, and then the accident happens. And then the soundtrack cuts out, and all you hear is Peter's breathing. And I thought like that was just so. That was watching it the second time around. Like it's like, oh my goodness, because if I can hear Peter's breathing, but I can't hear Charlie's breathing anymore, that's how I know Charlie's dead.
Right.
and how he's able to convey all that without using any visual cues, and it's really what he's doing with the sound is just genius in this film.
Amazing.
He puts a lot of thought.
Yeah, it's really planned out meticulously. Right.
Man, I'm gonna need to be able to properly justify why I'm not giving this 10 out of 10.
You better.
9.9.
But yeah, I mean, even the set design is done really well. Some of the shots of the movie, I don't know if you guys realize, it looks like those models that Annie was building.
It looks like a play.
At some there were a few shots that just looked like the house that they're living in is just one of the models. It looked like the model, and some of the furniture even looked fake. And it just sort of shows that
they're just bought from IKEA, man.
but it looks like someone is watching them from a voyeuristic point of view, and the whole house is sort of like exposed to this spy, exposed to this observer, and that's the grandmother, right? So you feel like the camera, I don't know, the camera is always in the walls. I don't know if you guys notice. It always
it's like a play.
It's
There's
always
no fourth wall.
There's no wall that is
The foreground wall.
right, and it always goes back to the shot where it's going from one room to another room. The camera is going from one room to another room, and there's no wall. And it just gives this feeling of them being watched and being orchestrated upon, and people are planning to do things to this family.
I think the part where you were talking about how everything is it's there to make us feel uncomfortable. Right? I think that for me, that the camera, just to your point on the camera, it's always, the camera is either too close to them or a bit too far out. Right? It just feels like, hey, that you don't usually see scenes set in such a wide angle. One of them is like the ending of the dinner scene, for example. You don't usually see it at that kind of wide angle. And a lot of the times when scenes are really uncomfortable, he really pushes that camera. Ari Aster really pushes the camera in right into the actors' faces. One of the scenes that I really enjoyed was like at the support group, where you start off with a really wide pan, and so you see the whole group, and then as Toni Collette starts telling a story, she's doing that monologue, the camera just goes in and in and in and in and in, and then just focuses on her face, and it's really, I mean, it's brilliant as well what he's doing in the camera. How am I not going to give this a 10 out of 10?
How are you not?
How, Josh? How indeed? So let's talk about the ending.
It's pretty straightforward ending.
It's pretty straightforward in a sense.
I've got things to say about that.
I mean, for me, it's fine for me. I took it as it is, that the family had a sad ending, but not probably for the
Sad for who, Caleb?
for the family, the whole family.
Everyone's dead.
Exactly.
No one is sad.
Yeah. Someone has to be sad for them. So, probably not the cultists then. They're probably like prospering somewhere.
Super rich.
Right? Yeah. The ending could be just as it is. It would be fine, because the whole meat of the movie before everything is so strong. So I don't mind a simple ending that the bad guys win.
Right. Yeah, for me it's the same. I just took the ending as it is. I didn't really like what Caleb said. The brunt of things has already happened, and I in a sense the family can just be released. I mean, they've gone through so much. Just let them die.
Just let them
in
die.
peace, right? And yeah, that's it. I mean, Peter, I don't know if it's still Peter at the end, because
It's Charlie.
Charlie is still sort of like has her own personality when she's being possessed, right? But I don't know if Peter is still fully Peter, but I mean, he gets to be one of the king of hell, which is pretty cool, I guess.
Pretty cool, I guess.
Pretty cool.
I don't know how much power would you have like that, but
I want to be one of the kings.
in a way, the whole family is just at peace now, I guess, in a really messed up way. With all their issues, right? The grandma being so controlling, the relationship with the mom and Peter is just, I don't know if there's any kind of salvaging to it. The dad has just given up. I don't know. This is really dark, but they don't have to go through that.
They don't have to worry anymore.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe Lynn, you can give us a different.
Okay, it's quite morbid, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, I took the ending as it is, just like Caleb. I think my question is, like, does Peter still live as Peter? Because, like, he's possessed by Paimon now, and, like, is he still, I mean, obviously he's still human, but does he still live his humanly life? That we don't know. I guess it's up to us to interpret. And I guess what's also quite sick is that, like, all these followers are already on standby mode. They know that it's gonna happen. They're already there, bowing to the statue first, and then when he came up, like, they're all, like, giving him all the credits, like, hail Paimon and whatnot. But yeah, it's quite disturbing to know that they are already expecting that to happen at that time. So, yeah. I guess that's why I'm not having sleepless. I am having sleepless nights because of that scene. It's quite scary, yeah.
Did you find all the beheading scene like disturbing at all?
Yes, definitely. But I'm not sure why are there only two. I'm not sure how Charlie is involved in this, because she's also in a way beheaded in an accident. But
that's Charlie's head, right? That's Charlie's head on the statue, right?
Yeah, it was her head, or her head on the statue.
Really?
At the end, in the treehouse.
Oh my
gosh. That was her head.
Now that I know.
Her disfigured head.
Oh, you didn't realize it was her head?
I didn't know. I thought it was just a random design.
Right?
No, that was her head.
Yeah.
Because it was brown. Like, the color
When
was
did
like
they
brown,
get the head?
you know.
When did
Yeah.
They stole the head.
Yeah. When did they take the grandma's body, put it in the attic? No one knows.
Right. Who the heck put the... My God.
Magic.
Yeah. Josh?
Go, Josh.
So, okay, so the reason why this film, it's the ending, right? The biggest problem that I have with the film is the ending, because it is so literal, right? There's really no other interpretation that you can give to the film once you have an ending like that. And so, like, for me, what made Hereditary so tense up until the point of the final 10 minutes, right? Before you see Annie up on the ceiling, before you see them hailing Paimon and all that, is that there is a point in the film, a specific point in the film, where you could watch up to that point and be like, I think all this is just happening in Annie's head. And for me, like, that is the one that is the most scary, or the most scary prospect, where grief drives a person to such despair, right? Or has such a toll upon a person's mind that they just snap and they just lose their bearings with reality already, right? Because a lot of it you could just be like, oh, she is being, you know, but you know, that was my first take watching the film. Second time around when I'm watching it, I can see, okay, it's probably not supported by, you know, especially once you have that seance with the family and all those things start happening. Yeah, you really can't say that it's all in the head already.
Yeah.
But the point I was talking about is the scene where Annie is speaking to Steve, and she's saying that, you know, my mom is up in the attic. You gotta believe me. You gotta believe me. You know, I know that you don't believe me now, but you gotta believe me. And the way that she's going about it, like how desperate she is for her husband to believe her, right? For me, it would have been like if you had kept it ambiguous, right? If you had kept it as like, this is just, you know, she's just losing her grip on reality. She cannot bear her mom and her daughter dying in such a short period of time, and how she has alienated her son, and you know how that the mental stress of her family just breaking apart in front of her eyes in the space of 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
It that for me, like, it's true horror, right? It's where you are led down a particular path, and because, you know, of what Annie had said, that my family suffers from mental illness, right? My brother was a schizophrenic, you know, my mom also has certain issues, and now you can see in the course of the film playing out, herself and her son are also displaying mental issues. There is a hint of mental issues with Charlie as well, but it's not fully fleshed out. But that is just so scary that is there bubbling beneath the surface, and then stresses like this that you are out of your control come and you just snap, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, the real horror is not that, oh, there is a cult out there that is targeting my family and that's what's beneath the surface. The threat of mental illness that is there is the one that for me is the thing that really drives the film. And so to have a final 10 minutes where all of that is crystallized, right? There's no, yes, there is, and mental illness does play a part in the film, but then you see that, oh, actually it's really, you know, it's the occult, it's the whole, it's the process, the ritual, and all those different things, and how they're bringing Paimon about. And those were just things that I just didn't really care for. Right? I cared about this family. I cared about Annie and Peter and Charlie and Steve. And so when you bring Paimon in the picture, when you bring the cultists in the picture, I was just like, yeah, you know, just.
Well, I feel like the title itself, Hereditary, right? It is talking about the mental illness that is being passed on from the grandma to the son and the daughter, and to Charlie and Peter, right? So I feel that would be the exact reason why the cult sort of targeted this family, because they have mental issues, and that makes it more scary for me. That, you know, there's this predator cult that is just walking around.
No, but the thing about it is, right, sorry, Joe, to interrupt, but the thing about it, right, is that you can see the schizophrenia, for example, is explained away, because then you know, oh, actually it's Paimon trying to possess Annie's brother, right? He's not really schizophrenic. It was because of Paimon. The hint of any issues with Charlie, you know, oh, actually, you know, it's not really mental illness, it's Paimon. Whatever Annie is going through, it's not really mental illness, it's Paimon. So for me, that diminishes that theme of the film.
But that's not really clear, isn't it? Like, it's not clear that it was it's not clear that Paimon is the cause of their behavior. I sort of like see it like, you know, because they have mental issues, that's why the cult targeted them, and they're acting in this way, and that's the reason why they were targeted, because they have a history of mental illness, right?
Yeah. I guess I should have prefaced what I'm saying by also saying that I read an interview with Ari Aster, and he explicitly stated that's what's happening. That when you think about the schizophrenia with the brother, actually it's not schizophrenia, it's because Paimon is targeting him. And that's why he's displaying that. So but of course, again, it's like that can be his interpretation. Your interpretation is perfectly valid as well, right? Because it's art, you can look at it however you want. His one is metatextual, it's not part of the text really, it's outside of it, right? So yours is as valid as Ari Aster's interpretation as well.
I just thought that it was Paimon can do what he does because his subjects are weak enough for him to do what he do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? If they don't have like mental illness or whatever, they won't be subjected to his torture or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is again that's a perfectly valid reading of the film. So actually, there's one that I didn't take the consideration. But like I said, I mean, like, and this is purely for me personally. I felt that when you can attribute so many things to Paimon and not so much to the mental illness side of things, like it for me diminished the film a little bit.
Right.
And that's why I can't give it a 10 out of 10, guys.
11.
So give us your rating, Josh.
Yeah.
I think we're dying to hear.
I mean, again, it's like there are so many things that I love about this film, right? We have gone through all of it already. The acting is brilliant. The cinematography is brilliant. The soundtrack is brilliant. It's just that I am very hesitant to give my rating for this film because number one, you guys are going to hate me, and number
Only on
two,
the
because. and secondly, because it feels more than any other film that I can think of in recent memory. It is the reason why I want to mark it the way I do is because I have an interpretation that I want to impose on that film rather than just letting that film speak to me, right? And so, you know,
just say it.
I can't.
It's so fun to see you so conflicted.
I just want to say this for anybody who is still listening, who still finds any credit in what I'm saying up to this point. This is a really, really, really good film. It is. I cannot overstate how. You know, when we talk about how assured the director for A Quiet Song was the last time around. Is it A Quiet Song?
No. A Dark Song.
A Dark Song.
A Dark Song.
That's A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place.
No, it was A Quiet Place as well, right? So, but the technical ability that Ari Aster is displaying in this film is just it's really, really mind blowing. Like how is this your first film? It cannot be. Right? It just defies logic. You must have sold your soul to Paimon to be able to make a film like this as good as this time around.
That's why he only has one film.
Like you sell off bits of your soul, right? Okay, I sold off 110 for this one, another 10 for Midsommar. No, but purely because of how I feel about that ending, I have to give this film a 9 out of 10.
Wow. Okay.
Still pretty high.
I can accept that.
Yeah.
You can still stay. You can still stay in the podcast.
Still on the podcast next week, guys.
Caleb?
What everything awesome that's been said, it's said by everyone here. I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's one of my top favorite films. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just really good. I don't know.
Okay. I guess mine's pretty obvious. It's also a 10 out of 10. The atmosphere of the film is crazy. I love the occultic elements of it. It's obscure enough, but yet it's I find it very interesting. Very obvious, the actors and actresses. Kudos to Toni Collette. She's just driving the whole film to what's his name? Peter, the actor from Peter. Alex Wolff. Alex Wolff as well. Outstanding performances. The amount of planning that goes into this, from the soundtrack to the set design, is just I don't know how you can get any more meticulous than that, right?
Yeah.
So 10 out of 10 for me. Lynn.
Lynn, please, come on.
Obviously, it's a 10 out of 10 lah.
Shock us. Shock us. 9 out of 10. Come on.
Yeah, I love everything about this movie. It's it has it ticks all the boxes of my ideal horror movie. Like it has the oppression, the remorse, all these feeling. I felt all this with Toni Collette's performances. Like, she was so good. She really brought out all those pain and remorse really, really well. The cinematography was great. Like the scenes, like there was one upside down scene when she was heading towards Joan's house, and then the scene where the camera was just turning. I mean, it didn't direct to the father's dead body, the burnt body, right? But it went from left to right. That was really well done as well. Music as well, it wasn't really overpowering. The music at the ending though, like, I don't know what you guys felt about it, but it was like the music, it sounded very enlightening. I don't know.
It's like a happy music.
Yeah, I know, right? So I didn't know what to feel about it, but I think it was.
It's okay. It's not possession.
It's not that, no.
That one's the
I guess it's meant to. I guess it's meant to like bring out the fact that Paimon is descended and then or ascended and then yet has come into being, and then that would be like a very ethereal feeling. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it was wacky, but it worked out. I guess it has everything I wanted in a horror movie. So definitely a 10 out of 10 from me.
Perfect.
Excellent. Okay, guys. Okay, so Hereditary is one of the most, if you talk about the film, horror films of the last 10 years, right? It's clearly one of the outstanding horror debuts, right? And we have seen, Hereditary. We talked about last episode. We talked about a dark song, right? Okay. So, but I think like there are 5 films that I feel 5 debut films over the past 10 years that have really been like super outstanding. And I just want to do like a quick fire round to see your ranking. Like, how would you rank these 5 films, right? From 1 to 5, like best to least best, because I think all of them are spectacular films. Okay. So like the 5 films that I would list are The Witch by Robert Eggers, Get Out by Jordan Peele, It Follows, David Robert Mitchell, Hereditary, Ari Aster, and The Babadook, Jennifer Kent. Right? So how would you rank these 5? Just within these 5. And Lynn, I'm not sure whether you have seen all of this. I know you haven't seen The Witch. Have you seen Get Out?
Yes. I've not
I don't think
seen...
you watched It Follows.
Yeah, I didn't watch It Follows. So I only watched 3 out of that 5.
Yeah, so, okay, maybe we start with you first, right? So Get Out, Hereditary, and The Babadook. I think it's safe to say Hereditary is number 1 for you, right?
Yeah.
So Get Out and The Babadook, like, where would you rank them? Second? So which goes second, which goes third?
This is quite tough also. Because I like Get Out as well, equally. I think I would rate Get Out as second and Babadook as third. I think that's the only reason. I think they're both equally good, but the only reason I would rate Get Out second out of the 3 that I've watched is because the issue of like Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's happening right now, right? Like, it recently just happened in US. Yeah. So I think that movie speaks a lot about what's really happening in real life. Not to say that psychological issues aren't, but the issue itself is very prominent. So I think that movie really...
It feels a bit prophetic. Right? Like, you have that, and then now it just comes to the mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been happening. It always has been happening. It's just that right now that we have all this social media that's exposing all this stuff to the entire world.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's Get Out as a, and I think if both of Jordan Peele's films, I think if you look at it and how it speaks towards the Black experience, are really like when 20, 30 years from now, when we look back, right, you see which films best, encapsulate what we went through at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why you see Get Out be very, very prominent,
Yeah.
even 20, 30, 40 years from now. Yeah. But Joe, Caleb, yeah. So The Witch, Get Out, It Follows, Hereditary, The Babadook. How would you rank them?
It's a lot for me to remember.
I can go first.
Yeah.
Definitely The Witch would be number 1 for me.
Mhm.
Hereditary number 2. What was the other one? It Follows, Get Out, and Babadook,
Babadook.
right? It Follows would be number 3.
Mm.
Babadook would be 4. Get Out would be 5.
Oh, man.
Please don't cancel me.
Cancel!
I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but
Yeah.
if you're asking me about horror,
It's your preference, right? It's just how
Yeah.
you feel about
if
this
you're
film.
talking about horror, then the horror aspect of the movie would be what I'm basing it on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was what? The Witch, Hereditary, It Follows, The Babadook, Get Out.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
Caleb?
Mine's Hereditary,
Mm-hmm.
Get Out, The Witch, and Babadook, and It Follows, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess It Follows will be last for me.
Do you even remember?
I don't
It Follows?
remember a lot of It Follows except for a naked grandma following you. That's why it's last. I don't remember much of it.
But it's supposed to be horror. If it induces horror in you, it's a good horror film.
If you use a naked grandma, that minuses points.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I can just say, it's safe to say all 5 of these are like, when we look back on them, these are going to be 5 of the best films from this period of time. It's just what the preferences are.
Right.
And I think that for myself, The Witch is very far ahead, even in this list. Like for me, how good it is. It is by far number 1. Get Out would be second. And then Hereditary, The Babadook, and then It Follows.
Right.
So yeah, that's my ranking. Yeah.
My Witch is on 3rd, mainly because of the language. I can't take
But
the
yeah,
language.
you need the subtitles, man.
You need the
Yeah.
subtitles.
Can't watch that without subtitles.
Yeah.
All right, so that would be the conclusion to this week's incantation. We have a little preview for you what we're going to talk about next week. So maybe
Recommendation?
recommendation. Sorry,
Only Joshua.
I think Josh has a recommendation first. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so a couple of recommendations. One of them is not a typical horror film, right? But if you enjoy watching, I mean, you shouldn't. But if you want to see a mom really going through stages of grief and how she deals with it, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is a year before this film came out and won, and the actress. Frances McDormand won Best Actress for that performance. It's a different type of horror, but it's also about losing a child and how you deal with it. So if you're in the market for that kind of films, I don't know why you would be, but if you are, 3 Billboards, right? It's a fantastic film. I mean, it's a good film. Not one of my favorites, but if you're in the market for it, yeah, 3 Billboards. Second recommendation is a graphic novel. So my sister got me this graphic novel for my birthday. It's called Black Magic. It's by Greg Rucka. And so she got me the deluxe edition, which is the first book of Shadows. And it's basically about this detective. Her name is Rowan Black, who works like robbery and homicide cases. And she's also a witch. And so the story goes about how she's investigating a particular case, but that case is linked to the occult. Right? And it links to her background as a witch as well. So the first 11 issues are in the first book of Shadows, the one that I got. Issue 12 came out in July of this year. So there was actually like a 2-year break, and then the issues 12, 13, and 14 are coming out, or have come out already. And so, so if you're in the market for graphic novels that deal with the occult, Black Magic by Greg Rucka, really good.
Cool. All right. So, Lynn, you have a little preview for us for what we're going to talk about next week.
Yes. So because we love Ari Aster so much, we're going to review another film, which is his second one, right? It's Midsommar, which is a 2019 folk horror film, obviously directed and written by Ari Aster. So this movie is about a group of friends who travel to Sweden for a festival that occurs once every 9 years, only to find themselves in the clutches of a pagan cult. So it's going to be my first time watching it, and I believe the three of you have already watched it, right? So first-hand experience and looking forward.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I am wondering whether that film has impacted Swedish tourism and all. I mean, apart from COVID, right? But
People will remember.
Yeah. I remember
need to
watching
go to Sweden anymore.
Yeah, I remember after watching that, I said, I'm never going to Sweden.
Probably not like stay in a village.
Yeah, maybe like keep it in the urban area,
Right.
Don't go to the woods. Yeah, so there you have it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Incantation. Do join us next week. Wherever you're finding this podcast, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and comment if you have anything to say about our podcast. So good night, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.